This is The Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers Podcast and True Crime Today. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
All right, switching gears now over to Donna Adelson. Of course, we've been watching this case like crazy and digging into all of the nooks and crannies of where this case has been and where it is going. Defense attorney Bob Mata, host of the podcast Defense Diaries, joining us. You've been watching it. I know you've been running it live over on Defense Diaries. Let's just get to it. What was it like the moment they said, Donna, you're guilty, and the Bob, I want to see you do an impression of that. Like, give me your best Donna. Give me your best Donna. You were found guilty, Donna.
It was something like
that was great.
Along the lines of that. For me, as you said, we watched the entire trial. It was expected. I mean, of course. They put forth a very strong circumstantial case. There was no way that Donna was going to be able to take the stand and be able to explain away the consciousness of guilt stuff that happened after the fact. And I just was of the mindset going into that trial, because you always kind of look at it from an attorney's perspective. You say, okay, if this was my client, and the lawyers for the defendants know what, they're not being surprised. They know what the evidence is going to be leading into trial. So that's when you sit down with your client and you say, look, all right, they've already gotten Charlie on this. That's going to come in at this trial. They've already gotten convictions on, the two hitmen and Katie, and that's coming in at a trial. So they're able to build this narrative that is damn near impossible to overcome. And then when you pepper in the actual evidence that they have, and when you look at it, if I were to write it on a piece of paper, the 3 or 4 things that I think that got her convicted, and I slid it over to you and I said, hey man, you think we should try to prosecute this person? And you looked at that alone, just those 4 things, you'd probably like, thin man. But when you have the entire backstory by way of the way that Georgia was able to knock these dominoes down in succession to where you have that and what's coming in at trial, it then becomes a very, very powerful case, because you really need all of that backstory to give context of why these 3 or 4 seemingly little things in terms of just a text of a few words, of a bump and her making a call and her texting Charlie, like all those things just on their own without that backstory may have been a tougher case, but that wasn't what we were dealing with here. So ultimately, you think about the conversations that may have been taking place between Donna's lawyers and Donna about, well, do you want to take this to trial? I mean, if you're a good attorney, you're giving your client the honest evaluation of their case and what their likelihood of success is at trial based on bad facts. You can look and say, these are very bad facts. I don't know, this isn't a silver-tongued issue where we're going to be able to talk your way out of it. And, yes, we can give some kind of alternate explanation of why maybe you were trying to go to Vietnam on a one-way ticket. And, maybe we can explain away with context clues that push people the other way on some of the things that you said. Maybe we can attack the fact that they can't really geolocate you. However, we have this huge problem of you texting Charlie saying I'm outside. So,
do you think that's how that conversation went though with Tom Petty?
No,
I mean,
no.
Do you think I'm kind of picturing more of a, my kids don't even call me anymore, and I don't get to see them, and they're accused after all I've done for them, after all those winnings I made on Wheel of Fortune years ago. Pat Sajak even said, "You are a good mother." Pat said I was a good mother. Vanna looked me in the eye and said, You are a shining star. I wish I looked just like you. I wish I just looked like you. Tom, what do you think I should do?
Well, I think you should do exactly what you've been wrong. Those kids, they I know they don't call, do they? They just don't call. They don't call. I'm going to bring that up.
We've lost Tony.
More like how it went. I don't think it was the calm, collective conversation like you were describing, where it's like, maybe we could go this way, maybe we go that way.
Yeah, and for the record, it's Tom Spade. She's definitely the love child of David Spade and Tom Petty.
You've been saying Tom Spade. I've been saying Petty.
Yeah. No, man. Yeah, that's true. From Donna's perspective, she has little to no motivation not to go to trial.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, for her, it was always going to be, I'm going to roll the dice. I think in her warped mind, there's this kind of element of a Lori Vallow type narcissism that exists with her, to where I think that she had fooled herself because of the passage of time in terms of when they finally arrest Charlie and they get him convicted. Like, I think that she had convinced herself that they really didn't hire somebody to kill Dan Markel. Like, I honestly do. I think that whatever Charlie was working out with Katie and getting the hitmen secured, that Donna was basically absolving herself of any of that in her mind by, supplying the money. And I didn't make any of these plans. Like, whatever Charlie was doing, and he said he needed some money.
And according to the rules of Donna in her mind, the Donna rules say, well, just because you're signing the checks doesn't mean you killed him. That just means you're signing a check to an employee of Charlie. It's Charlie's business. I don't know. So she keeps telling herself there's all these layers of insulation between me and this, even though you're signing the checks to the person who got the hitman involved.
Exactly. That is the definition of a conspiracy. So, it's literally when you are a part of it and your part of it is to pay the money, you might as well be pulling the trigger. It's the exact same thing. So, yeah.
Well, there's a vast amount of fraud going on here. I mean, at some point, the IRS is going to have a say in this as well. Like, you're paying somebody for work and they're not working. They didn't do any work for you. So there's this whole implication of what's coming next, other than the fact that somebody's dead.
I would imagine the IRS would have already gone through this, wouldn't they, at this point? Or because none of that gets disclosed. It's not like, the IRS is investigating you, and that's never going to be public unless you want to make it public. But I would imagine at some point they were looking at the finances here, and that had to be some point. I don't know. I mean, because the story's not done. By the time the IRS gets involved, if they haven't yet, there's not going to be a whole lot of money left, I'm guessing. But there's so much more to come on this case, it seems. But before we get to that, of what's coming ahead for the Adelson family, the reactions of Donna throughout the case, obviously being in a courtroom, you're a defense attorney, that the image that your client presents is very important to a jury. It's not just about the argument and the words that are being said aloud. Obviously, the way those are being said matter, but the perception of the client to the jury means a lot. They threw a cardigan on her, and that was about it. I mean, were they that stupid? Were they that inept and that dense to how she was coming across to that jury? Or do you think Tom Spade there thought, you know what, I can't control this woman. She's going to do what she's going to do?
No, I think that there was probably a lot of discussions that took place between her attorneys in terms of how they wanted her to look for that trial. So it was the cardigan kind of the Marshall's shirt that she had underneath, and then the must hair. The must hair, like it was those three components together that they were trying to roll out the sweet old granny type deal. So as opposed to, you look at Donna, they're a well-to-do family, or they were. And you look at her prior to prior to them starting to get arrested. Yeah. Before that all started to take its toll, she came across as a sophisticated, well-to-do woman in terms of how she appeared. And in this particular type of case, where you have this theory by the state that, look, this was a very well-off family. This was a woman who was absolutely obsessed with getting her grandchildren to where she could see them at will. And she was really the matriarch of the family in the sense that she continued to be able to manipulate her children long into adulthood. I think that they came to the conclusion, if we're going to have any shot here, we can't have any semblance of that Donna, the sophisticated, well-tailored, hair's done properly, makeup, they had to try to go with, we're going to roll in the sweet granny for simply sympathy's sake, for nothing else.
And even that didn't work. Even that didn't come across as sweet grandma. She came across as like vile and just gross.
She can't do it. She can't be sweet grandma. But the ironic thing is, Tony, when you hear her with her grandchildren and some of these like overhears, and that the kids are, she was a very loving grandmother. Those two things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
Sure.
Right. She can obviously, and I'm sure she does and always has, like, completely adored her grandchildren. And I think that, she was able to emote that to them throughout the course of their lives. But then when you try to balance it against not just the fact that they're murderers, right? But that goes without saying. But when you try to reconcile the fact of, okay, you've got a woman who, by all accounts, loves the hell out of her grandchildren, would do anything for them, right?
Yeah.
Is so short-sighted that she doesn't understand at the moment in time that if they do what they're thinking and talking about doing, that it is going to destroy those two boys' lives in a way that nothing else on the planet could. Like for them, or for all of them to be that blind in terms of the impact on those kids is what really disgusts me more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because if you just break it down to brass tacks, and this case was really about them just trying to get the kids down to South Florida, and, they'll get over Dan being gone. Just the ability for them to be able to block out anything that was commonsensical about, well, what happens if we get caught?
Yeah.
How is that going to affect these kids? How is it going to affect the kids that their father's not only been killed, but likely that all of us are going to go to prison, and they have to operate in society? Because, look, we could go into just the shitty things that they did with respect to changing the boys' names right after Dan's murdered.
Sure.
They just did so many awful things that it's impossible to feel any kind of sympathy for them. Yeah. But what I always go back to is that point that I just made, that how can any rational person sit there and either block out or be completely unaware of how it's going to impact those two boys growing up?
I think that's the answer is she's not a rational person. She's right. Her cognitive distortions are mind blowing, just how crazy they are. And I'll say this, I don't think she adores her grandchildren. I think she adores being adored by her grandchildren. And I think because Donna lives in this blinder world where she's just, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do. And everything else on the side effects, everything that's going to catch up with you, she's not seeing over here. But she knows that this narrow path that she's going on and she's always lived her life by isn't getting the input that she used to from her children. She doesn't quite have the pull and that she used to on her kid, the control that she used to over Charlie and over Wendi and certainly not Robert. And she's probably missing that a little bit. So that also then I think feeds into this need of, I need these grandkids near me because this is fresh meat. These are new kids that she can control, which she was trying to do. And this is where you get her going into such extremes of trying to talk about dressing them up in Hitler youth costumes to piss off their Jewish father. Yeah. I mean, that's just insane. It's so far off the beaten path of healthy, normal behavior. Donna is just so far out there. I don't think Donna, I get it. On tape, you can hear, and she sounds like an adoring grandmother. It's not about that. It's about getting that feed, that fresh meat from those kids that she's taking in. This is making me feel good. This is making me feel good. And she would go to any length to get it. And obviously, it didn't end up well.
Yeah, no, and I agree with all of that. But again, I think that two things can exist at the same time. You know what I mean? Just in terms of, because a child isn't going to know whatever underlying motive that person of authority that is a guardian or, a grandparent or a parent, they don't know what their motive is in their mind because we're not mind readers. So ostensibly, when you look at it on its face in terms of how she treated the children, and I'm sure she spoiled them, from until the chickens come home to roost and the kids are now exposed to what she and others have done, I think until that line in the sand was drawn, they probably wouldn't have known just exactly how manipulative she was. Because I think you're right. I think she viewed them as next up, next man up. Like, okay, so my kids they're finally starting to pull away in their 40s, but now I've got the grandkids and I can get my claws into them and be able to kind of navigate them through life. And, she was like, my nickname for the woman was the meddler, man. Like a Batman villain, because that's exactly what she is she was a meddler with just deadly consequences. There's plenty of mothers and fathers out there that meddle in their kids' lives. That can be certainly very annoying to their children. And, as dutiful kids, they may not say anything in terms of, hey, like you gotta stay out of my shit. They might, you take it. They're your parents and, you can always hang up the phone and then you're not going to be with them. You know what I mean? So there's
I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
It is the aftermath week now for Donna Adelson. She's now had a full weekend to let the reality sink in that, guess what? You've been found guilty. All of your, those reactions. You remember the Donna Adelson, it was a visible cry, a visible scream, a visible moment of disgust in the courtroom last week when Donna found out her fate, that she would, basically be spending the rest of her life behind bars. I don't know if it was the reaction to that fact or the fact that people saw through her BS and eventually was called out to it on such a public forum. We're going to break down everything that happened last week, what the future may hold for Donna, Harvey, and Wendi. Yes, everybody's a favorite American family. We're going to get into all that and much more today. Also going to be talking about the latest in the Kohberger investigation. What we're finding about that investigation is more tea leaves are dropped open to the public. And we're also going to be talking about the Long Island serial killer. We're going to go through that story and where the evidence has taken us now, that the DNA evidence has been admitted. That was a crucial piece to that case, where if that was not going to be admitted, might be a little bit harder to point the blame onto Rex Heuermann, but that is now in. Anyway, that is all coming up. Our first hour here, Robin Dreeke, retired FBI special agent, chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, joining us, along with Stacy and Todd. Let's start here, Robin, as we go to the Adelsons and the big verdict that we had just the other day. What was your reaction to Donna's moment of shock in the courtroom?
You know, we keep looking at these moments of shock from her, and we're not shocked by them now that we see them. I finally understood when I watched it again why she rubs me so poorly, and I don't like hers, because I've had people like this in my life that she's putting on such a psychological manipulation show. She's got a lifetime of reps of using that look to manipulate people. Her own family, again, pure conjecture, they don't feel, it's hard to imagine people feeling sympathy for her when she puts on that show, because it is so evidently a show. And I know people are saying, are there tears, not tears there? So what really got me, Tony and Stacey, when I saw her immediate reaction to this was, where did she go in that moment of distress? So think about this. This is where we put on our deep empathy hats, and it's like, all right, I am in this situation. I'm in this spot. I've had situations in my life when I felt such trauma hit me, and we have this emotional response and we collapse. We literally collapse into ourselves. We come down like this because we're contemplating and thinking, what just happened to my life? And so we go inside our own heads. And so what we saw from her, though, is she had that response, and she's outward. You can actually catch her eyes looking around, seeing what people's reactions are to her. It's completely incongruent. That's why she creeps people out. You know, the other thing that struck me too is how fast the jury came back with the verdict, and I think it's because they didn't like her either. They just get rid of her, man. I don't want to see this look anymore. I think she thought this look garners sympathy from her family and friends. No, I think this look she has that gets people to do what she wants is because they want her to stop making it a horrible look. She just looks hard. It's a horrible, ugly look that she has every time she has trauma response.
It's all to avoid the look. But in a way, Robin, you're exactly right. And that's the thing. This is someone who has ruled by fear throughout her entire life to her entire family. And the older son, Rob, really pointed it out well the other day in court when he was asked, so when things went, and I'm just paraphrasing, when things went well for Donna and what she was doing, she was getting her way. How was she? Well, she was basically said, she was pleasant, and she was kind of fun, and she was good to be around. Very typical for people like this. They're often very loved, very liked by their community, by those around them. Those that aren't too tightly close, that are going to be affected by them on a deeper level. But then Rob also said, well, what happens when Donna doesn't get her way?
We saw that.
That was a very different story. She's not very happy. She's not easy to get along with. That's the look. It's the look, but it goes so far beyond the look. The look is like that's her initial, I'm going to try and correct this right now. And if they go beyond the look, if the look still doesn't get it, then she digs. Then she starts getting vicious. And then she just keeps going. And she's someone who just doesn't know when to stop. I don't think she's capable of stopping. She's determined. She's very, very determined. Overachiever, maybe you could say, in some areas, where she just keeps going. She does not respect the opinion. She does not respect the outcome or the consequences to her actions in any way, shape, or form, and has zero interest in any sort of reflection back on herself as to what those actions caused and their effect.
Relentless stupidity. That's what she has.
Yeah.
It's because she keeps doubling down in an echo chamber of her own voice. And she's bullied her family into going along with it or suffer the consequences of her relentless stupidity. I mean, when you just look at the stats and averages of probability of success of hits like this, I looked up the number. It's 0 to 40% of unprofessional hits get away with it.
Those are some bad odds, Robin.
Those are horrible odds. And but this is a great idea. Again, she doubles down on stupid. She's relentlessly stupid.
I gotta say, a 40% chance odd for something that you have zero experience in. That's
on the high end.
On the high end, yes, but I'm still surprised it goes that high. Like, I would think if somebody said, okay, we're going to put you out there in a home run derby with some of the best MLB players in the country. What's your odds of hitting a home run? I'm going to guess like between 0.1 and 0.5, not 40. Like, that's a pretty high odd almost for a completely inexperienced person, isn't it?
It's just ridiculous. And the other thing too that compounds the relentlessly stupid is the number of people that were involved, because that decreases your odds down to zero even more. Again, remember, there's 40% of people, and it's very rare that people do this to begin with. 40% get away with it that actually might have 3 marbles rolling around, not half of one like Donna. Yeah. The other thing that she totally undermined herself and the whole family did, especially her, was that she has her emotional regulation, as we see, is horrendous, which means that her mouth won't stop running because it's running in a safe, as she thinks everything around her is a safe place. And which, well, I know we're going to get to Wendi, which makes it hard to imagine anyone in her circle doesn't know exactly what she's thinking, even if she's talking in her stupid double down code. So, I mean, just it's like the most ludicrous thing you could possibly come up with.
Well, what strikes me about this thing is you have Donna, who's a complete narcissist. There's probably other personality disorders going on here, but you also then have the children who were playing a part. At least we know that Charlie was, who are also very narcissistic, but they're also really insecure. They constantly need reassurance that what they're doing is right. They're constantly going back to mom. That's why there's all these conversations. That's why you have Charlie in the jail, constantly needing, without mom even directly saying anything, that he's in the right, that he's pleasing mom. They're constantly seeking the reassurance from Donna. And that's what kind of makes the difference in the dynamics of these people. You got Donna, who I don't know constantly needs the reassurance. She seems to, she likes it, but she just feeds off the energy of her minions and what they're going to do for her. But when they're gone and they're not able to reassure, everything's going to work out fine, Donna, she collapses. And that's what I think we're seeing here in real time, is this narcissistic collapse that's been going on. It hasn't been a slow one either. This has been, I think, some time coming, but there doesn't appear to be an end. There does not appear to be an end where either Donna has, bowed out, or she reaches some sort of acceptance as to the reality that she's in.
Well, she loses it when she loses control. Everything comes down to control. And I think her children, the way that they've responded to the world with this insecurity, well, what makes someone insecure? What makes someone insecure is when they've been demeaned, bullied, or treated poorly by others when they're at a younger age in those formative years. And so I imagine, pure conjecture, that one way that Dawn exercised control over her children was to trauma bond them. Basically, is like, hey, you suck. Oh, and I'll give you a little bit of praise. So why would someone seek praise from mom unless it was so sparingly given out? And so this makes a pattern behavior. So that's also the pattern that they've learned in their lives of how we treat others. And so that's how these things get propagated generationally. Again, pure conjectures. I'm not a licensed psychotherapist. But that's typically what happens, why people behave in this manner, is because they learned it from someone else. Who else would they have learned it from, especially in such a cloistered family that's so controlled by Donna? And so, what we keep seeing with her is a loss of control everywhere. And how did she maintain control in her own life? He starts out with these emotional outbursts. And so as you've said, as her control's weaning away, it'll be really interesting. I don't think she's going to accept. I mean, can you see her accepting it? She hasn't accepted it yet. Anything. That lack of control. I think she's going to get to prison, and in prison right now, and she's going to start learning how to control a new environment, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah. I think she is going to take a few days to be depressed, cry a bit, and then she's going to start looking around and finding the ones in that population that can be manipulated. She's going to pick them out in a heartbeat. she knows exactly who they are. She will. I know these people. They can scan a room and figure out who they can go after.
Yeah,
it's really frightening.
She'll become the grandmother figure in jail, most likely.
But what about this? I mean, she's in a population of people that are pretty good at manipulating people.
That's a good point.
They're there. I mean, she's amongst her own. I mean, with her kids, with her family, she was not amongst her own. She was truly amongst people who she could manipulate and had many, many ways of doing so. They already figured out how to manipulate her. I mean, she thought in round one that she was manipulating everybody. That's how you ended up having the jailhouse snitch saying, oh yeah, she was going to give me a grand piano. She was going to give me $10,000. She was going to give me hair extensions and this and that and the other thing. And they knew that she wasn't going to do it, but they used her for what they got. And she got like a box of gas station snacks, basically, at the end of the day. Not a grand piano, not $10,000. Donna kept stringing her along and giving her just enough treats to keep her going. And then Donna disappeared. And then nothing ever happened because Donna strung that person along thinking, oh, I can just use this person too. Use them, chew them up, spit them out. I convinced her that she's going to testify for me. Well, when that's not going to happen, guess what? It doesn't matter. And she thinks that no one is going to turn on her. I think that's been one of Donna's biggest failures and obviously narcissists are not great at seeing their reflection from the rest of the world back to them. But she failed to see that anyone would ever turn on her through this whole damn thing. She thought whatever she did, whatever she said was going to be impeachable.
Yeah, she thought she's a lot more likable than she actually was. Yeah. And it'd be interesting in the jail scenario, when you look at it's going to really come down to the population that she's in, because on the female side of prison, there tends to be more white collar type crimes, and to Stacey's point, a lot of these people in there are skilled, but at the same time, if you're dealing with low recidivism, white collar crime, I really don't. It'll be interesting. If it's a different than the male population than Charlie's in, no doubt. So, but again, I don't know where she's going to be, and I don't know the situation. The problem is you want her to feel suffering, and I don't know how. In other words, she's not getting Kobergered.
Right.
I don't know that Koberger's feeling suffer. Well, I mean, he is. He's writing. He is. You're right. You're right. He is.
Don't burst my bubble. He's having a horrible time.
He is having a horrible time. I was just going to say, is he capable of? And he is in. I think in different ways than how we would feel it. And I think Donna's uncomfortable. Is Donna will feel suffering, but is it for the right reasons? Is it because she's uncomfortable in her current setting, or is it because she feels bad about what she did, that she participated in the murder? I don't think there's any guilt with her in that realm whatsoever.
I don't think so. I don't think she feels guilt at all. If she had, so when you do a murder for hire, there's always time to back out. So if she had felt guilt at all, she would have backed out at some point along the way. So no, I don't think there's any remorse or guilt because she hated that guy. And so when you're so full of rage and hate and you're living in an echo chamber where everyone else is agreeing with you, why would you have guilt or remorse? Her only remorse is that she can't, be there controlling her family, and in her mind, be there for her family, be there for her grandkids. Because the first actions that they all took after the murder was that, they ostracized the grandparents from them as well. I mean, this is all about control, 100% control.
I think that's what really made me hate Donna more than I already do. Was seeing the victim impact statements that we did the other day of the Markel children. Or the Markel grandparents, because it's been 11 years since this stuff went down, and they've seen their grandkids 3 times. So they've missed their entire childhoods. You would think that in a situation like this, where it's literally mom's family that's been charged and has gone to prison for murdering dad, that the system wouldn't necessarily be like, mom's the best choice.
Right?
Like I this feels like a system failure to me as well. I mean, granted, Wendi has never been charged with anything. Maybe that's where they should have dug a little deeper into mom early on, because now
let's look at the stats.
Yeah.
You know, you can't see my research there. You know, the stats are saying, you know, the probability of it being her, because this is what, you know, I'm not a profiler, you know, I'm a behaviorist inside the FBI, but what the first thing profilers do is we look at the research, we look at the stats so we can start filtering out possibilities and bring to the forefront probabilities.
Yeah.
And, you know, when it comes to murder for hires, you know, they're at what number did I give you, Tony? It's like 66%. It's spouse that initiates. And so if you are the Child Protective Services and we have a murder for hire, you know, underway here, you know, the last thing, they are literally put a 66% chance that they're giving the children over to the mother that might have committed the murder. Or been involved.
I feel like the system really goes against men in this regard. And I'm speaking, I don't have kids.
Yeah.
But I know in my own childhood, my parents were divorced and my dad was just this horrific creature. Thankfully, the system leaned toward the kids need to be with the mom. But I've seen wonderful, wonderful fathers who have just been slighted by the system. And the kids go to the mom, no matter how terrible she is, because God forbid they go with the dad.
There is a stigma that really needs to be removed in this country about all of this, because I would swear to God, I mean, look, there's plenty of shitty dads out there without a doubt, but my God, this idea that mom is just the best, there's more manipulation, there is more narcissism, there's more there's more personalities. I don't have the stats in front of me, but my God, there's to just carte blanche go, well, you're the mother, you must be wonderful,
right?
Without like ever looking into this monster is insane. There are so many monstrous mothers out there that are doing unspeakable damage to their children, and the only reason they have the power is because they're female, and it's insane. I've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
And the system is stacked against men in that area, where men really do have to bring it if they're going to go and say anything or try and assert control for the goodness, for the betterment of those children. Otherwise, the system just pretty much defaults over there.
And I'm sitting here just with a big smile on my face because I'm thinking of our good friend Tony, who is the epitome of a great dad.
Yep.
You know, that shows that the stat is definitely on the favor of that. There are some great dads out there.
My ex ran away. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there really wasn't a lot of battling, thank God. But there are dads who have to go through hell, who have to deal with somebody making up stories and shit about them and then battle that. And the system tends to still default on the mom's side. I mean, in no way am I saying like, look, men should just be trusted alone by any means. No. But I'm saying the mom shouldn't be either. No one should be just trusted carte blanche. There should be, but again, this is asking the system to do far more than it already doesn't do.
Correct.
We already don't have enough people just checking on these kids when they're in foster care or when they're in the care of whichever parent that they may end up landing in. I mean, so if we're asking it to like, well, let's get in here and really get ahead of the game and figure this out beforehand, they're not remotely equipped to do such a thing. I mean, thinking you get ahead of that, you won't have the problems later, but you know, that's two thoughts and it's the US government. So
that's a whole other podcast that we're not doing.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not getting political, but I mean, it's such a broken, damned system that it's easy for us to sit here on the corner and say, well, we should do this. Of course we should be great. But the thing is the public as a whole doesn't want to deal with it. It's an icky topic. It's a yucky topic. And we'd rather just sit there and pretend that everybody's going to do the best for the kids and things will work out. And if this isn't affecting our family directly, then it's just those other people's problems and they made poor decisions. So that's how they got there. That's not always how it works.
No,
you know, I mean, we've covered so many cases, Tony, where Child Protective Services. I mean, how many times have you and I talked in the last 3 years about Child Protective Services?
Oh my,
Oh, it's nauseating.
It's horrendous, and it's the saddest thing ever. I mean, God, I just keep thinking about Maddie Soto, and you know, and that horrible monster Stephen Stearns that got away with that one. And then we look at Lori De Belvallo. I mean, all of this all came down to children that got victimized. and were collateral damage, either intently or unintentionally by these, as the great comment in the chat is, by adults not adulting.
Yeah, I mean, has any, and I fucking hate that term, adulting. Too.
I know. Oh my God, Robin. I'm like, he's gonna react.
Like,
look out. Here
it
it
is such a trigger. Like, look, once you're 18, you're a fucking adult. Grow the fuck up and become an adult. It's not adulting, just as much as I'm not going to go childing and like go play with blocks or something. You're a fucking adult. Grow the fuck up. It's not adulting day. You don't have the option anymore. It's not a choice.
Robin, the can is open.
I didn't do it. What is this? Assassin Class Y did. Oh, it's all right. We love you, though. Thank you.
My God! But I mean, it is just so frustrating, watching all of those dynamics play out in so many cases. When you have, and like going back to the Adelsons here, and all of this, and it does look like they're closing in on Wendi. Obviously, again, she's never been charged with anything. So this is all speculation, but maybe they should have looked at her sooner. Maybe they should have tried to dig at her deeper, because now you got her kids that are like mid-teens, and if mom goes away, I mean, that's going to be even more traumatizing. They're already dealing with the shit of their family and trying to figure out this stuff. And they're not little kids here where they can protect them anymore. Guaranteed, this is up for discussion, and God knows what's going on in that house, with Wendi and the kids, and what those conversations are. That's got to be horrific. And then now to be fearing that mom might be going away after all of this. And look, there's a lot of evidence that points that Wendi had some ideas here, that there was some knowledge. And I'm sorry, I don't buy anymore that she's a lovely human being and it's a complete victim of circumstance. And what really screws her over in my mind at the end of the day, long point coming, is the fact that she's not let those grandparents see the grandkids after all that time.
Yeah. So her not knowing, I thought hard about this after our last episode together, talking about her, because we heard the ex-boyfriend who's clearly still enamored with her, thinking that there's 1% chance they'll get back together. Maybe he can be a conjugal visit for her in jail.
He was back then. He was enamored. I mean, that tape was 14 years ago, 11 years ago. But yes.
But it was interesting, because when you look at the arc, as I look at everything as arcs of individuals, organizations, and family structures, the amount of communication they seem to all have, and the lack of impulse control or voice control, vocalization control they have amongst each other, it would be odd. It would be a spike for her not to have an awareness of what happened. And now whether they have evidence of that or something like that is, I was watching a lot of lawyers, because as you all know, I'm not a lawyer. I don't do prosecutions. I was an investigator and a behaviorist.
I thought you've been a lawyer for the last 3 years.
I get some people love coming at me on lawyer stuff. But dude, I just comment on behavior.
I know.
Smart guys. Sometimes you don't have to be a lawyer to be a smart guy.
No, you don't. No.
But I was watching, a lot of lawyers talking about this case and why they didn't go after her first. And again, because Donna, they picked up that she's going to flee the country to a non-extradition country like Vietnam, so they had to go her. Or the fact that, maybe Wendi, instead of having half a marble like Donna, maybe Wendy's got 2 marbles rolling around. And so being a lawyer herself in some way, she knows how to not talk in code with her brother in prison. So maybe she was a little bit more sleuth with her communications. Who knows? Or maybe like guilt, innocent proven guilty. Maybe she really is the only family member, with the exception of the brother, that ran like a smart guy years ago, that didn't know what was going on.
And being a go ahead, Stacey.
A quick question, Robin. How many marbles are we supposed to have?
At least 3.
Okay.
At least. One of them needs to be the one that you flick, the one that breaks the other ones up.
I like 3.
I'm just curious. I'm just doing a little self-assessment, so I just want to know how many I'm supposed to have versus how many I'm really
thinking
have.
3, because when you hear the expression, always got 1 or 2 marbles rolling around upstairs. If you only hear people saying 1 or 2 marbles, and I guess 3 is the standard.
Okay.
If you got 4 or 5, it's like you're doing pretty good.
We're at Weinstein level.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
My highly technical terms I like to use and throw around.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what got me on Wendi. And look, there's plenty of situations where grandma and grandpa should not be in the picture because they're going to be toxic, and it is up to the mom and dad to protect their kids from repeating the cycle of abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, whatever it may be. No matter how much mom and dad have changed, or grandma and grandpa have changed, or claim they've changed, although maybe they really haven't, and you know it, and you'd rather not subject your children to that. There's certainly points for that. I'm not saying a carte blanche grandparents should be able to see their grandchildren, because they feel like it. But I'm sorry, this is not a case where that's that. This is a case where it's insane. They had to literally get legislation passed to see their grandkids. Be after the family murdered dad. That is effed up. That is completely effed up. Adelsons will, of course, keep following him. I know the other day, Georgia Kappelman, in a brief interview outside of the courtroom, I believe with Court TV, was asked about Wendi, and she said, "Stay tuned."
Yeah, so, I watched that.
Stay tuned, everyone.
And I'm seeing like 70%, 60 to 70% are saying they're going to go after the other side. They won't, because they would have done it already. So yeah, stay tuned. I think, hey, why not? Because someone said, if at this point they got a winning batting record, why not at least swing for it if they could?
And maybe they needed to really get these, and this will spell itself out in court easier, just as it did kind of with Donna. We needed these blocks in place to build this tower over here. Now this tower is built. Now we can build onto it and go after Wendi, because the Donna tower has been completed. We have the foundation now to go after Wendi. So
they showed the same arc. The lawyers are showing, the prosecutors saying that same arc of behavior about how they went to Charlie, how they went to Donna, and they're building the same way. So if we're following that arc of congruent behavior, it looks like they're gearing up to do that.
I would say this one piece of advice to anybody, including Wendi. Before you have to go testify, before you have to go make a public appearance in something like this, where a lot of people are watching you, be sure to instruct your Botox person not to inject you in ways that make you look like a Disney villain. It didn't work out well. I was watching some of her testimony over the weekend, and I'm just like, and I compared her to how she looked in previous testimony. Right. And she Disney villained that shit up. And I wonder if she did that on purpose. The way her eyebrows were, like, they weren't moving. They were very stagnant. And a lot of her, it was just like, God, like, did she go in there and say, this is exactly how I want it? Or was there like some rogue Botox person there going,
I was going to say,
I'm going to fuck this bitch up?
It might have been somebody having an off day doing her treatments.
Or not even that, just knowing this is Wendi Adelson. Oh, hi, Wendi. Great to see you. Come here. You're Corella now. Have fun at trial.
I haven't seen the stats on this, but I actually heard someone talking about this when it comes to people doing work on themselves like this.
Yeah.
I think the percentage of people that actually come out looking better than they otherwise would have is so low.
Yep.
And like you are playing, again, it's going back to those laws of averages. If you're looking to make yourself look better, the chance of you coming out looking worse is much higher than looking better. So, hey, let's just ride.
The goal of anything like that is not to look like you've had it done.
Exactly. Yeah. It needs to look natural, and nothing about her face at this point looks natural. Her expressions don't look like something you would see in nature.
No. And look, I'm not anti-Botox. I mean, do whatever you want, everybody. Whatever makes you feel good, and whatever. That's up to everybody. I would just say you might want to pick somebody different next time. I know a lot of people who get Botox, and you'd have no idea they were getting Botox.
And that's a sign of a very successful person doing it.
Yeah. Maybe it was a Groupon. Maybe she's struggling a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of money going to attorneys here. Maybe it was like, we got to go to this one. It's a buy one, get one free. Buy one half of your face, get the other half off. And, I don't know.
Well, you don't want to just pay for the one eyebrow, for God's sakes.
No, she paid for both. But I'm wondering again, too, did you double this up? Were you like, in case I get arrested, can I get double the Botox? So I'm in there long. It stays longer. Prison Botox. There's a new industry. They
and the
sneak
thing
it
to
in.
do is remember, who's their audience. That for anyone doing these things, I mean, there's a lot of that goes into courtroom appearance and courtroom demeanor, what you wear. I mean, for guys that actually have numbered, whether you're wearing a 2-button or 3-button jacket. I mean, there's a lot of courtroom appearance. And so I would imagine for her role that she's trying to play in that courtroom, that's not a look you'd be going for. If you're trying to garner sympathy from a jury, you want to have that loving, caring mom look, not this, not trying to get the glam look on.
Do you think the Adelsons have any concept?
No, that's it doubles down on their self-centered narcissism, and the one aspect of control is they try to control perception that they have of others, that others have of them, and so that's why people do it. Is they're trying to control the perception.
And when your prism is that broken, it's very hard to see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like Karen Reed, absolutely, 100%.
Yep, 1,000%.
But here's the thing: Wendi is a former attorney, correct?
Yeah.
You think she'd know? I mean, wouldn't she?
You're good at it. Well, no. Well, with so many folks like that, it's easy to look at other people and go, "Here's how you should do it." The self-reflection is the missing part.
This is why it's so important. People need a loving critic.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
I just did another podcast episode on my show today about, all these exercises we can do for self-reflection are fantastic, and the path of mastery that we have for ourselves is really great. But if you're doing it in your own echo chamber, it just will fall short all the time. I mean, how many times do we see things posted on social media that you look at and say, why didn't you give this to someone else to read before you posted it?
Right.
Yeah.
Because people think they're smarter than everyone else, and they don't have the courage. It takes courage to give it to someone to look at who might say, dude, that looks like shit. Don't post that. And so for her or anyone in these situations, if you don't have someone who's like the loving critic, and so for definition here, it's someone who cares deeply about you, but not the destination that you're choosing. In other words, they're there to give you that honest feedback without being personally assaulting you, just saying, hey, here's objectively what this is, and here's what I think is going to be a cause and effect from your action and behavior. And we can do it really effectively for someone else. Like I'm really high on this because I love being that loving critic for the people I care about in my life. At the same time, though, for myself, I'm probably 60% accurate, even as objective as I and pragmatic as I try to be and tend to be. I know when I get emotionally hijacked, in other words, or emotionally tied to the outcome that we seek, we are horrible at doing this for ourselves. That's why I post anything, I do anything. It's got to go through loving critics like Tony and Stacey, and definitely my wife. I mean, my kids, everyone weighs in. Then I make my assessment. It's like, all right, we'll do this. But she lacked it totally.
That's a great point.
That's 1,000% true, and a great way to live. Because no matter what, we're not good at it. We're just not. We are not good at that as human beings, no matter who you are. Some far worse than others.
Well, you need that person that walks beside you instead of in front of you or behind you. You need that person who's just going to guide you right next to you. I'm in this for you. I am part of your team. Yeah, no, completely. So, these people don't have anyone on their team. You can see it.
They run everyone off of their team eventually as well.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.